I have seen the Lord. The fundamental power of the Easter story is Jesus' loving response to the Father's will. His obedience, even unto death, becomes a model for every Christian. Love always moves us to respond. And in our gospel reading, we witness the responses of Peter, Mary Magdalene, But before we rush to the joy, we must remember where Easter begins. As the Gospel declares, early in the morning while it was still dark. Easter begins in darkness, in confusion, in grief, in the half-light where one cannot see clearly. This is where Mary Magdalene meant. Mary comes to the tomb while it is still dark. John does not give us the reason why she braved the dark to visit the tomb. But it is suggested that she came to perform one last act of love for her Lord, to anoint his body. Perhaps to bring closure. But instead of closure, she finds the stone rolled away. Her first instinct is not resurrection. It is loss. She runs back to Peter and the beloved disciple and declares, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Like many of us, Mary interprets the moment through the lens of her pain. She assumes the worst as she declares to Peter and John. They joined her and they ran to the tomb in fear and in confusion. John arrives first, peers in, but he does not enter. Peter, bold and impulsive, charges straight into the tomb. John eventually enters. We are told he sees and believes, though he does not yet understand. They both left the empty tomb in bewilderments, physical and spiritual darkness. But Mary, she stays in the darkness, in the place of pain. And I'm sure some of us can identify with her. Many of us have lingered at the graveside of a loved one, even if it feels unbearable. How many times have we gone to Dovecot, for example, and go and visit the grave of a loved one? Mary stays in the darkness weeping. And it is there, in the tears, in the confusion, in the shadows, that Jesus comes. How many of us, in our moments of darkness, of sadness, and of grief, experience the risen Christ, bringing comfort and hope? Mary has an encounter that changes her life. As she bends to look in the tomb, she sees two angels, and they ask, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She repeats her grief. Then she turns, perhaps sensing a presence. She sees Jesus, though she does not recognize him. And he asks the same question. "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" I'd like to suggest to us that these are Easter questions, not just for Mary, but for us. What are we weeping for today? What is bringing us anxiety? But it is in that moment that things change. Mary, he calls her by name. The good shepherd speaks, and the shepherd knows his voice. This is the heart of resurrection faith. Not doctrine, not argument, not certainties, but encounter. One writer says the question that Easter asks is not, do you believe in the doctrine, but have you encountered the risen Christ? Reminds me of Thomas, who said, "Unless I see, I won't believe." But Mary's tears become recognition. Her grief becomes mission. Her darkness becomes dawn. If you are weeping today, overwhelmed, uncertain, carrying burdens too heavy to name, hear Jesus calling your name. He's calling you. He knows your fears and your doubts and your challenges. He knows the stones that block your heart. He knows the stones that block your heart. Today, as we celebrate Easter, I believe that God is saying to us that I am God, I still roll away stones. I still roll away stones. The stones of despair, the stones of fear, the stones of injustice, the stones of hopelessness, the stones of national anxiety, the stones of personal grief. Easter is a story of hope. It's a story of triumph over the grave, over death. It's a story of victory that we can experience when we encounter Jesus. It's through the encounter with Jesus that Mary was able to leave that place of grief to go to the disciples and say to them, I have encountered the Christ. I have seen the Christ. And just give me a mission. The resurrection, my friends, opens new possibilities, new beginnings, new futures. It invites us to cooperate or to co-create our lives with God, bearing the fruit of discipleship. Today, we have all come to this place, if we're honest with ourselves, with some amount of fear, some amount of anxiety, some amount of grief. But the grief and the pain and the anxiety, they are not the final word. Because we are a people of resurrection. So Jesus says to Mary, do not cling to me. Go and tell my brethren. Resurrection is about sharing the good news so that others can experience what we have experienced by our encounter with Jesus Christ. Like Mary, the church is sent. We are sent. We are a resurrection people called to live out the 5 marks of mission. And I'm sure many of us don't remember them. We are a missionary church. We are called to go and tell. But we can only go and tell when we have encountered the risen Christ. And when we allow Him to direct our lives. So what are those 5 marks of mission? We are called to proclaim the good news of the kingdom. The good news that Mary brought to the disciples is that Jesus is alive. And I have encountered Him. Have you encountered the Christ? Are you just coming to church without having a personal encounter with the Christ? Today, the day of resurrection, He invites you into a relationship with Him. We have a responsibility to teach and nurture believers. Are we engaged in passing on our faith? We are called to respond to human need by loving service. How are we fulfilling that mark of mission? We are challenged to transform unjust structures and pursue peace. Sometimes we are too silent. Perhaps we are crying so much that we cannot see because the tears block our eyes. We are called to safeguard creation and sustain the earth. That is part of our mission. And I must say that Jamaica needs this witness Our schools where children have never heard the good news, where children are fighting. We have heard recently of 2 students taking chairs and hitting another student, in which one died. Our schools need Jesus. And we as parents and adults, we have a responsibility for the children to nurture them so that they too can have an encounter with Jesus. Or financial institutions tempted by greed, or government called to integrity and compassion, or security forces, or transport sector, or children's homes, or homes for the aged. We need to provide a credible witness to these places. We can't do less once we have encountered the Christ. So the resurrection is not only God's triumph over death, it is the church's commissioning into the world. We must tell the story. Because if we do not tell the story, we would have failed in the mission. Because God gave His Son so that we might have life and have life more abundantly. But people can only come into that experience when we prove to be credible witnesses and we share our faith. The journey with Jesus asks a piercing question. Why do you believe? Not why people in general should believe, but why you have encountered hope in your own darkness. Have you encountered hope in the dark moments of your life? Have you experienced hope in those dark moments of your life? In a moment of grief and sorrow, Mary encountered hope. And her answer to the question, why do you believe, is this: I have seen the Lord. That is enough. What is your answer? How will you leave this place today? Like Mary, leaving the tomb with a mission, with a purpose, with a sense of hope. It is my prayer that each of us would leave this place today with a sense of hope, with a mission, because the world cannot experience resurrection, transformation, unless we who have encountered Jesus share the good news and become living witnesses. In our fear, in our anxiety, we can affirm that because He lives, all fear is gone. O God of power and might. You roll away the stone from the tomb. Roll away the stones from our hearts. Deliver us from the burdens that overwhelm us. Give us faith, hope, and strength for the challenges we face. Transform our doubts into opportunities for grace. Call us by name, as you called Mary. Send us out as witnesses of your resurrection. For with you, O God, all things are possible. You are our strength and our salvation. On this Easter day, we rejoice in your power and in your glory. Amen.